We need all hands on deck, both management and labor, to be able to get this done.
Welcome back to Leadership to Membership. This is President Cooper coming today with International Secretary Treasurer Paul Noble and CEO of the National Electrical Contractors Association, David Long. Before we get started today, David Long is a journeyman wireman. I always check his ticket, so David, is your ticket up to date?
Pay it every month. I don't
Attaboy.
let them get ahead of me.
David is a longtime journeyman out of
Local 177.
177 in Jacksonville, Florida. So welcome to the podcast of Leadership to Membership. You was part of that membership for a long, long time, and we appreciate your leadership over at NECA. Before we get started, I always ask the IST Noble if there's anything he'd like to add, and then we'll start shooting you some questions, Dave.
Thanks, Coop. Yeah, I just want to welcome David to the podcast. We truly have a partnership, and I know everybody hears that, but they don't really see what that means. If from our JATCs to our benefit funds to CIR, we have partners. It's our industry versus the unrepresented industry. And David, it's an honor to have you here.
Well, I want to say, President Cooper, Secretary Noble, working with you guys day in and day out is not only a privilege, it's a friendship. Because I know that you have the industry in mind. And I hope that we've demonstrated we win together, we lose together, there's nothing else that we can do. You know, and in this economy that we have going right now, it's the greatest time to be in our industry, greatest time.
So our last podcast, if you follow our podcast, we had the director of construction, Matt Pauls, on here, and we talked about the tidal wave that I've said to the IBW leadership across the countries at every progress meeting, the tidal wave that is no longer on the horizon, it's here today. That tidal wave of work is something we're all enjoying, and we're really fighting hard for every job. But as you've talked to me, David, the biggest hurdle that you see and the biggest obstacle in our way is growth. For the first time, we have calls that's going unfilled across the nation. In fact, I think our average is somewhere between 1,300 and 1,700 each month. I say to all the local union leadership that that's a gift. That's a gift from us to the non-union contractors. It's a problem for us, for the customer that sees that we can't fill those calls for the next job. So when we talk, and we sit down, you and Paul and myself, and we talk about the challenges, you've always brought up the issue of manpower. So what's your take, what's your message to the membership out there on what we can do to improve those type of things so that we're making sure we're manning every job?
You know, President Cooper, Secretary Noble, it's not a tidal wave, it's a tsunami. And for the first time in history, we have the greatest opportunity to go and represent the unorganized individual today. And that's the people we need. We've always struggled that we made our industry off of apprenticeship graduates when we developed and trained. We still are doing that. We just have to now do that much more rapidly and much more successfully. Because right now what's holding us back as an industry is the ability to put people on the jobs, number one, safely, number two, productively, and number three, representing what we want to put out there, whether you're contractors or the IBW. Those are serious challenges. You know, coming from Florida, we had very low market share. And it started with Florida Initiative, and it rolled into Cs and CWs, and it did all those things, and we were able to gain market share, grow company, do those things. People don't realize that everything we do is based on man hours of work. We fund our apprenticeship, we fund our benefits, we fund our health care, we fund everything through. So we have to keep growing to make all of us better. And I think we have the unprecedented opportunity to go out and get workers today who I believe wants to come to us. They want to have a better standard of living. They want to have benefits. They want to have those things. They want to work for our contractors. We have the best contractors in the nation. They want to work for those people. We have to go out and solicit and And that's some of the things that we're working on as organizing tools. And we have got to get our contractors heavily engaged in the recruitment process of the workers. It's got to be our next step. We've got to get that done. And I appreciate the opportunity of working with you guys over the last few months trying to figure out what that looked like. And I think we have some great things coming.
Yeah, and one of the things that I push too at the same time is not only taking new members, but taking new contractors. You represent contractors every day. And what's your message to the membership out there and the leadership in the IBW about taking those new contractors? Because I think an important piece is, as you strip people from that non-union contractor, having conversations on what we can do to help them build their workforce back, how they can become bigger and larger, all those kind of things that you do with your contract base. So maybe you can.
Well, since I, became CEO 5.5, 6 years ago, we have to grow our contractor base. There's 15, 20,000 contractors out there that does not belong to NECA. And just think if we could organize them into our ranks, we would absolutely have 100% market share. So we can only build our contractor force so far, and we have contractors that are growing exponentially. We're seeing a lot of acquisitions and mergers, but at the same time, we need all hands on deck, both management and labor, to be able to get this done. And I've met with a lot of contractors and saying, come and join. I have saw probably the last 36 to 48 months where my contractor ranks is welcoming them to those things because they realize that there's so much opportunity out there that NECA contractors cannot do this financially or physically or even with the current workforce. We cannot do it. We got to go get everything.
So
my fear is we don't, we're going to let the non-union get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and even letting general contractors and different people get into this market.
Let's talk about that for a minute. You mentioned you was with Miller Electric. As a contractor, if you got a job that you can't man, do you bid the next job?
No.
Why not?
Because reputation, risk. When you can't perform a job that you have told the client that you can do and you cannot perform it, you've damaged your reputation in the corporate world. And that news travels fast, especially with general contractors being very organized among themselves. When you damage your reputation, it will take you a decade to overcome.
So if you hold a job back because you can't man it, basically it's hard to bid the next job because general contractors aren't going to want to look at you because you can't man the work.
Right.
So that's the importance of us being involved in organizing and bringing new members in, making sure that when you put a call in, we're manning that work. If we control the workforce, you guys can control the work, correct?
Yeah, and here's the thing that we've all stumbled over. Contractors say, if I could get the people, I'd get the job. Local unions say, you get the job, I'll get the people. And they're at a dead standstill.
Chicken or the egg? Which
And
comes
what
first?
we're saying, what I'm saying, it's both.
It's here now. Yeah, we have to
You
do
have
it.
to do together. We get good at assigning blame. It makes everybody feel good, but unfortunately, it doesn't solve any significant problems we face. And I think the only answer is partnership, working together, doing this thing together.
And I think at a local level, that's more important than anywhere else. You know, being prepared for what's coming at you, knowing what your market's going to look like, knowing how many people you're going to need, knowing how many apprentices you're going to need, agreeing on those apprentices, knowing how many people is going to retire from your local union in the next 5 years. All those things, everything I just mentioned matters, because if you're prepared for that, you're ready to go for the next big job that's coming to your area, or the next 10 jobs that's coming to your area. And they may not all be big jobs, but you still have to man them all. And at the same time, you have to continue to have the market that you're in. So in other words, the contractors service certain groups now, customers, they got to continue to do that. At the same time, they're growing to those big jobs and those other projects that are coming. So I think that balance is really, really something that it's not easy for us to see in the membership sometimes because we're on one job.
Yeah.
That's all we know about is that one job. But the contractors should share some of that information with the workforce. Look, there's 30 jobs coming here, and it's really going to make a difference because we do talk about it at union meetings, but we don't get to talk to everyone. So if contractors shared that information, I think that'd be helpful as well so that the membership knows what's coming at them. Paul, is there any questions you'd like to ask Dave today? Or
No, I mean, just continue to advocate for working together. I mean, you said it earlier, David, and it's absolutely true. These are challenges, but they do present opportunities, and I would much rather be looking for men than looking for places to put men. You said that earlier,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that's 1,000% true.
You know, in any business relationship, any relationship, it starts with clear lines of communication. Without communication, chaos is created and it becomes combative. The three of us know where our local union leadership, our chapter leadership, and our contractors are communicating, working together. We don't ever hear from them. And they're growing their market share.
and they're the
And they're
majority
taking
of
care
our
their
groups.
customers.
Yeah.
Right. Majority,
And
yes.
there's a lot of good people doing a lot of good things. If you're waiting to negotiations to have a conversation, you've already lost. Both sides. Conversation has to take place. You know, coming at Miller and growing up and going in. And I mean, when President Hill came down and we started Florida Initiative, gosh, it was tough. We couldn't. We always felt like if we got a job, we either left some labor hours out of it or we left the material out of it. That's how hard it was.
Yeah.
And we started, but
It's scary to get a job.
Yeah, we always had a relation. We had a relationship. The business manager and his team knew exactly what we were doing. There was no surprises.
Right.
There shouldn't be any surprises.
Right.
He's my business partner, and he needs to know what we're trying to do. And I had no problem communicating, saying, "This is a job that we would really like to get. This is a signature job. There's more to come behind this. Can you help me?" And in those days, it was help me with ratios and help me get competitive. I was open book with him with the hours, you know, how many hours we put in. I didn't have anything to hide.
Right.
That's the only way I could get there. And now I advocate for our contractors to share with the leadership of the local union your forecasting. You know, for us to say, well, I need 100 people next week is really an unfortunate thing.
It's unfair.
No, I need 100 people Labor Day that I don't have today. Let's start working on that.
Exactly.
Right? I need, you know, we're right now, we are working with our Fortune 25 clients in America, and we're sitting there and they're sharing with us now more than ever their labor
Projections.
expectations,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So there should not be any surprises. There should not be any surprises if our contractors are not sharing that. Now, there's some challenges, both sides of the table. We have a lot of turnover at local union leadership. We have retirements and chapter leadership. There's still some challenges. It starts with a phone call and a lunch to sit down and say, hey, you guys represent your people. And that's your job. And I should never think ill of you for that.
And you represent contractors.
Right.
Yep. And I should never think ill of you for
Right.
that. Because really, we're all on the same page, trying to do the same thing, get more work for union contractors and union members, period.
It's an industry problem. You're not going to solve it individually. You only solve it collectively with open communication.
Right. And communication is not an email or a text.
No.
So wrapping it up, you know, one of the things that I think that David really keyed in on that's so important is those local relationships. Those local relationships are so important. Get to know your NECA chapter manager. Get to know your contractors. Understand their fears. Understand their rewards out there in the industry. Understand they're going to be in a niche and ask them to step out of that niche once in a while. But if you don't have their trust and their confidence, they're not going to do it. One of the things that David always said, and we say it at CRR every time, it's not how we agree that matters, it's how we disagree that matters. We can disagree respectably, understand that he represents contractors, he understands I represent the members. But at the end of the day, we're all on the same page.
You know, in my past, I never wanted people to believe that I used an IBW workforce. I didn't use anybody. The IBW workforce that we had at our company helped us build our company. They was as much as our fiber as our accounting department estimating department, anything. And I think sometimes we love to draw a line on this blurred line of labor management. No, we're an organized effort representing men and women in labor and management. And if we could just get back together with that, at this point in history, we have no options but to befriend, communicate, grow together, understand what that looks like. We have to do that. We have to do that.
And I'm fortunate, my management counterpart carries an inside journeyman wireman ticket. And if you look at most of our contractors, about 85% of them carry an inside journeyman ticket or have at one time. Maybe put their ticket in the IO or something. But the main thing is build those relationships. Understand you're not always going to agree. Get to know each other. I mean, Dave and I have hunted some together. We've got to know each other as people. We know each other's wives. We know our families. When we talk about those things, those are just as important as business every day. So I challenge each one of you to do those kind of things with your counterparts out there for the leadership. And for the membership, remember, I still believe in a good day's work for a good day's pay. They've agreed to a contract. We owe them a good day's work in return. And I expect that good day's pay and those benefits that come with it. Paul, is there any closing remarks you'd like to give?
Kenny, you hit the nail on the head. We're trading our labor for wages. And not one of our members will get a paycheck or go to work if a contractor doesn't bid a job, provide the tools, provide the information, provide the payroll. They're needed in this industry. They're our partners. David, just want to say thank you.
I want to say thank both of you. Listen, this industry has made a lot of people successful. And, you know, some of the things that we talk about, you think about the enormous of this. Every first-year apprentice, every CW, every CE, every journeyman, every lineman, every apprentice lineman, everyone out there, and then every contractor and every contractor shop, people in the accounting department, payroll department, they're depending on us. And it comes down to working together and understanding we want to do everything we can for the best of all. I don't win, you lose. And you know, guys, I've come here and I've been that way from day one. It's like I say to y'all, what's your best case scenario? What's your worst case scenario?
Yep.
And we describe that, and then we start working, and I just hope that if I had a message to anyone, it takes a relationship to have a great open line of communication.
Yeah.
It takes that, and it don't start with an email. It don't start with the CBA.
It's people's people
It's
face to
people's
face.
people.
Well, thank you for listening to the podcast. Until next time, this is President Cooper, and thank you for listening to Leadership to Membership.
Thank you, guys.